هلا السبيكر الجاي قبل ما يبدا يحضر حاله بدي اسالكم كمان سؤال. مين حضر اكثر من 5 عمان تي تي؟ حضر اكثر من 10 من 20 23 15 مش عم تحيوهم. حضر ال20 كاملين. لو كان حيكون عنده مشكلة بدي اقول له اسوي لك شيء ثاني التهي لك الموضوع. دقيق بس يعني مش لهالدرجة. طيب السبيكر الجاي معنا لسه اوكي. السبيكر الجاي معنا هو وسام داوود، هو السي تي او تبع سوق.com. انا بشوي تعرفت على وسام بس يعني very impressive guy. Wissam was the senior product manager بإيباي قبل ما يجي عندنا، له سنة تقريبا في الأردن 6 شهور تقريبا، وقبلها كان السكرام ماستر. مين الجيك اللي ما بيعرف شو يعني سكرام ماستر؟ برودكت مانجر يعني اللي ما هذا بشور سيركت، وله تقريبا 10 years بالاي كوميرس. فترحبوا معي بوسام داوود.
شكرا كثير. زي ما قالكم رامي صار لي 1 سنة و6 شهور في الأردن، شغالين معاكم أول مرة بنعيش في الأردن، it's been a very good experience so far. It's truly the Silicon Valley of the Middle East from all the countries I've traveled to, been Emirates, Saudi, Kuwait, other countries, so definitely big round of applause. We've got a great team, so today I'm going to talk about e-commerce. Give a little numbers on a region, ايش بيصير في ناحية e-commerce. Talk about Souk as a platform. I'll also be talking about how you can use Souk as a potential platform for you guys to talk about that. So Souk.com is part of Jabbar Internet Group. أكيد كثير من الشباب سامعين في جبار. سميح طوقان، حسام خوري، مكتوب بالزمانات ياهو. So it's part of a legacy of people. So 3 is عديت صح 3 من around 15 e-commerce sites that were up before me were Jabbar properties. So we have about 25% of e-commerce that was in the room so far. We're very proud of that. So let's talk about some of the numbers in the region. So usually when we talk about e-commerce والinternet دائما بنحكي بخصوص الانترنت penetration. لانه اي كوميرس تحدث من عبر الانترنت، والانترنت هو الشيء الانيبلر الاساسي. So this gives you a breakdown of internet penetration across the countries الاكبر. There's 81 million people on the internet in the Arab world. So مش رقم قليل ابدا. And if you can see, there's 24 million people in Egypt out of that whole population. Morocco, Saudi, Algeria إلى آخره. ففي كثير ناس على الانترنت. So the world average internet penetration is 30%. The Arab world is about 33%. So we're slightly ahead of most of the world. A little behind the West, بس إنه ماشي حالنا من ناحية internet penetration. It's not really an obstacle like it used to be بالزمانات. فموضوع الانترنت بطل an obstacle like it used to be. So e-commerce, specifically B2C e-commerce in the GCC specifically, is $3.3 billion industry. This is in 2011. So it's not a small business. There's definitely a huge potential and it's only growing. So the biggest share of that is in the UAE. 60% من e-commerce بيصير بالإمارات. Clearly they have some of the highest internet penetration, some of the more educated and a lot of Western influence. عندهم infrastructure مرتبة. فهذا كله بيساعد على هذا الشيء. But this gives you a good perspective of that. So to give you more details in terms of who's buying, in terms of demographics. So this is taken from Souk data, from our data. So we're in the 4 main countries we operate in. The Emirat, we have about 60% of the users are male, 40% are female. It's the highest across all markets. So you have a good mix of men, women buying online. Clearly very different buying habits. رامي كان يحكي عن data, analytics, statistics إلى آخره. هاي معلومات كثير بتهمنا لإيش الناس عم تشتري على الإنترنت. مصر 70-30 split. Saudi 85-15. but we see from a lot of our internal data, and it's skewed. This is the numbers in the system. بس في كتير females عاملين registration على under male accounts for various reasons in that culture. بس إنه we believe in السعودية من ناحية المرأة and shopping online, it's definitely in par with the 70-30 split that you see across the board. So there's definitely a lot of women buying online. Is that true from all the females in the room? Are you guys buying online? Yes? Yes? Okay, good. Next slide. So what they're buying, so we saw who's buying, so this gets us into what people are buying on the internet. Again, this is reflective of Souk data, which we feel it's pretty representative of the region. So top of the list is clothing, shoes, and accessories. So people are buying a lot of the leisure goods on the internet. Next up is mobiles, accessories, mobile phones, telefonat, accessoires, telefonat, that's all on the internet. People are buying that as well. Then you get into health and beauty, games, gadgets, computer software. So if you look at really the top of the list is split between two things. What we like to call is the triple C, اللي هم consumer electronics, computers, cell phones, like the really tech stuff, which a lot of the male population is buying. But then the other half is the lifestyle goods, fashion, the accessories, which you even see a lot of the male audience also buying, and you see a lot of the shopping club sites that are coming up all over the place that they're actually focusing on some of that as well. So this is what people are buying. Now, if you're thinking of getting set up online to do e-commerce, I think there was a lot of people in the room interested in doing e-commerce. So this gets us into what it kind of takes. So at the top line, it feels like it's pretty simple, right? في buyer, في seller. Seller بحط بضاعة, buyer بيشتري منه. يعني it's pretty straightforward. ما بتحسها إشي كتير معقدة. But if you really get into some of the details of what it takes to do e-commerce, so really it takes somebody to list an item. So you need a seller to put an item on the internet somewhere. Hopefully they put it somewhere where buyers actually come and visit, so I can actually find the item. So the buyer finds the item. Once the buyer finds the item, they have to buy the item and actually make a payment for the item, which gets us into all the payment and all the complexities of enabling payment on the internet. So once that happens, the seller has to ship the item. Our friend Iyad will talk about all the fun stuff that goes into place to actually إنك تشحن قطعة من مكان ألف لمكان باء. I think he's got a story to tell, which would be pretty interesting. And then the buyer expects to track the item. So the buyer بيعرف شحنت ما شحنتش وين راحت شو وضعها. And once that happens, the seller all the while is managing his inventory, putting listings, downloading the orders, managing all the transactions. So there's quite a bit happening there. And if the buyer wants to return something, they have to be able to return it. They have to be able to communicate to the seller. And then at the end, the seller has to get paid. They have to get their money. So there's quite a bit of detail going on in order to enable actual e-commerce. It's not really as simple as putting up a site and doing that. So what we believe are the core pillars of e-commerce. So you really need, above all else, not just to have a website. That's almost the bare minimum requirement. بدك تفتح دكان بيكون عندك محل مستأجره يعني ما واحد بيقول بدي نفتح نبيع شيء من غير ما يكون عنده المحل. So the site is the very basic aspect of it. But the key is you need to have the marketing and the buyers, right? You really need a strong buyer community. Because we see many sites open up or many individual sellers or retailers go on the internet and try to set up a business and they have a really hard time because they're just not getting the traffic. So that's where the online marketing comes in. You need really good content management. Merchandising is very important. How you attract the buyer, how you actually turn all that traffic that's coming to your site into a buyer. So how do you turn a visitor into a buyer? That's a really complex formula which requires the proper supply, the proper merchandising, the proper messaging on the site, the communication. It's a really elaborate formula of getting that enabled. Clearly you need to enable people to give you the money, because that's the whole point. So you need good payment options. And clearly in the Arab world, payment is a difficult problem to address. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. And then logistics, you really need a good partner to actually deliver the goods, because that's really the key. That's your main interaction with the customer, is getting the product from A to B. So those are the 4 pillars of e-commerce. And then we can talk about Souk as a platform and how it enables anybody to come online, set up a business, and really sell products, really flip their inventory. So in terms of reach, is what we like to call reach. So Souk gets 4 million visits a month. So they get quite a bit of traffic. There's 2.3 million buyers across the 4 markets that we have. So that's quite a bit of the buyers, and 25 million page views, just to put things in perspective. We're really proud of those numbers. It took a lot of years and a lot of effort to really actually get to this point. Like I mentioned before, we operate in 4 primary regions: Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Emirat. Jordan is a country that we love dearly, but Jordan is a country as compared to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and some of the other, the huge buying power that's available in some of the other markets. It's taken a bit of a backseat for us in terms of the focus. So the core markets we're in are really the other 4 markets and not so much Jordan, unfortunately. But it's definitely a country we're going to come back to, and we're going to do it right. And then in terms of daily reach, we are top 100 in all the countries that we're actively in. So we're top 100 in Alexa, in terms of all the countries we operate in, number 27 in the UAE. And I think part of that whole list of top 27 were 1 or 2 sites that people actually come to and give money to us. All the other sites are news sites and other social sites, and that really don't generate as much revenue. So very proud of that data as well. So what we offer besides that reach, so we recently have done a major transformation on our technology, on our platform. So basically we're taking Souq.com, the traditional close to eBay listing-based model, and we're transforming it into a really clean and clear catalog-based, very structured data model. So we killed auctions. So we used to be an auction site. So there's no more auctions on the site. There used to be a lot of used inventory. There's not much used inventory on the site anymore. There used to be a lot of consumer-to-consumer sellers. There's a lot more focus on the B2C sellers. And we're really taking advantage of the shift that's happening in e-commerce and the trends that are happening, where it's all about the buyer experience. It's all about the right buyer expectations. So basically, we work for the buyer, and we're giving the buyer the best possible buying experience possible. So part of the rich product catalog, so you get all the technical specifications, all the details, unlike an unstructured listing model. And this catalog is available to all sellers to come and use. So if you're selling this camera, you can simply come on the site, punch in the barcode number of the camera, or search for it, and you can say, this is the camera I'm selling. You just set your price, the condition that you have it in, and how many items you have, and you're good to go. So we're really simplifying the selling process for a lot of the sellers out there to just make it as smooth as possible. And what we believe is a first in the world, essentially, is we're really working on the first Arabized product catalog. This doesn't exist anywhere. And we've got an army of people just sitting here working and localizing and making sure that we're really addressing our core audience, which is the Arab-speaking population in Alam, which is funny because I'm speaking in English. So the other really interesting thing for us is the fact that we are truly local. So we have an Arabic catalog. We have local products from local sellers because we operate in all these local markets. We accept local currency. So when you're in Saudi, you pay in Saudi riyals. بالإمارات بتدفع بالدرهم. In every country you're in, you pay in your local currency. So we believe that's a huge advantage. Local payment methods. So depending on the country you're in, we currently accept Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Cashew, cash on delivery, which is a huge part of the business for us. In addition to that, if you're in countries like Egypt, there's a really popular payment method, it's Fawri. So we accept Fawri. If you're in the Emirat, you can do a bank transfer through something called BankNet. If you're in Kuwait, there's something called KNet, which is really popular. So we really try to make sure to really be as local as possible. We use local shipping couriers. Animix is one of our main partners, and they're available in all these countries, so they're very local from that perspective. And we have a local phone number. So we're actually available in all the countries we do business in. We have offices there. And we really address the local market, because we believe that's the only way to win in e-commerce. You cannot be just a regional player. You really have to be a local player, because that's what the buyer expects. And it's all about setting the right buyer expectation. And that's pretty much my presentation. Thank you guys very much. We are hiring. If you really want to get into e-commerce, the best way to come is to actually do it yourself. And especially since we're doing e-commerce, which is probably, if you think about the internet, من أصعب الشغلات اللي ممكن تلعب على الإنترنت اللي هي e-commerce, right? It's extremely complicated. We're doing it in one of the hardest places of the world, right? يعني ما أظن في مناطق يعني في الدنيا أصعب من الوطن العربي بكل تعقيداته، ما في addresses، ما في payment methods، الtrust issues ما حدا بيثق فيه ابن عمه، فيعني we've got serious issues, and all these challenges are the opportunity. That's the opportunity we see. فهاي هي يعني كل الصعوبات هاي بتخلينا نحس انه عن جد هذه هي الاوبورتونيتي اللي خلينا تنجح كشركه, and we can win against the eBays and the Amazons of the world and really take over e-commerce in this part of the world. So if you're interested, jobs.tool.com or come find me afterwards. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Wisam.